Hi all, you want to learn how to draft a dress or a kurti in a designer style? Here it is. For this we need a scale, tape and an armhole curve. And I'm going to show you some formulas which you can use to draft any size kurta, okay? So these are the formulas we are going to use to draft the patterns. So we are going to draft for a medium sized person. So we have the measurements for shoulder, bust, waist and hip as 14, 34, 30 and 40. So for bust, waist and hip we need to give some ease, that is like 3 inches for bust, waist and hip 2 to 3 inches according to your like whatever you feel comfortable. Now you can see the formulas for everything. For back and front I have shown. So apply the measurements of your shoulder, bust and waist and hip in these formulas and then draft your pattern. So we can see that there is a difference between like shoulder, bust and hip for back and front patterns, because for front we have bust but not at the back, and hip we have at the back not at the front. So we need to give little difference between both front and back so that the fitting will be proper in designer style, okay? Shoulder is little less in the front because we have neck deep in the front. So apply these formulas and draft the front and back patterns separately. And if you want to do it together and not separately, please take the back pattern measurements as a reference and do it. Okay, you should be fine. And now let us start drafting the front pattern. Now mark the shoulder, which is 6/3/4, and then lengthwise measurements. Armhole depth at 8 inches. Waist at 14 inches, it can be 13 or 14. Hip depth at 21 inches. And full length I am taking as 28. It can be 40 or 42. I am doing a short kurti, so it is 28 for me. So extend these points, draw a straight line. At bust line, mark the same shoulder measurement, which is 6/3/4, and make a box by joining the shoulder line, okay? Which is 6/3/4 and 6/3/4. So join with the line, and this is the bust line. So mark the bust measurement, which is 9.5, and waist measurement is 9. Hip is 10.5, and mark the bottom one also as 10.5 because it is a straight kurti, okay? So mark 10.5 here, the same measurement as hip, and join these lines now. So the bust line, and waist to hip, and hip to the bottom, which is a straight line. So take half of the armhole depth, which is 4 inches, and then mark a straight line. And now mark half inch inside of that line, and 1 inch above the bust line, okay? And mark 1 inch down for the shoulder slope from the shoulder line, and mark the neck width, which is 2.5 inches. These are all standard, okay? So mark the shoulder slope from the 2.5 to the 1 inch down on the shoulder line. This is how it looks. This is the shoulder slope, okay? So take the armhole curve and join that half inch mark and then shoulder slope line, and then the 1 inch down line we have marked, right? Yeah, that one. So and move the armhole curve like this and attach joint to the bust line like this. So this is how the curve looks. And now we have to do the dart. So mark 3.5 inches on the waistline, okay? And mark half inch on either side of that point, okay? And mark 3.5 on the bust line and also on the hip line. And also on the shoulder line, mark 3.5 inches and join these dots with a scale for the 3.5 inch mark from shoulder to the hip line. And now measure 9.5 to 10 inches from the neck width point to the 3.5 inch line and make a point, which is the highest bust point, okay? So that is 9.5 I have done, and mark 1.5 inch from down from that point. This is the dart point, And also from waistline, mark 4.5 inches down. That is the dart end point. So join these lines now. We have already marked half inch, right, on the dart point on either side of that point. So join these lines like this now. We can see that we have 1 inch dart now. So full kurta will have 4 darts, means 4 inches will go in these darts. And now let us do the neck. So neck width will be like generally 6 inches down. So mark 6 inches down and 2.5 inches, which we have already marked on the top of the shoulder line. Mark like this and then join with the shoulder line. Make a box. And mark any neck, whatever design you want. I am doing a round neck. So with the help of the armhole curve, I am drawing the round neck. So now we are done with the front pattern. Okay. Now let us do the back pattern also. Okay. So mark the shoulder line, which is 7 inches. So mark it 7 inches. And then lengthwise measurements. Armhole down at 8 inches. Waist at 14 inches. Hip at 21 inches. And then full measurement which I am taking is 28. So extend these points with the help of a scale. So after this, mark the round measurements. So first what we have to do is mark 7 inches at bust line and make a box with the shoulder line, which we have already marked as 7 inches. So make a box. And then now mark the round measurements. So bust is at 9/4. Waist at 9 inches. Hip at 10/3/4 and also the bottom line at 10/3/4, the same measurement as hip. And now join these lines, bust to waistline and the waist to hip and hip line to the bottom line. And then mark the neck width, which is 2/3/4 inch, and mark 1 inch down on the shoulder line, which is the shoulder slope, and join the neck width point to this 1 inch down point. Okay, and then mark half of the armhole down, which is 4 inches, and draw a straight line. And then mark 1 inch on the bust line like this, which is like in 90 degrees, 1 inch, and take the armhole curve. Okay, and join this point in a curve shape. So join the bust line and the armhole down line like this. So this is how it is going to look. And now we have to mark the dart. So on the waistline, take half of the waist, which is 4.5 inches. Mark the same 4.5 inches on the bust line and also on the hip line. So 4.5 inches, and take a scale and draw a straight line for this 4.5 inch. Okay, and then mark half inch on either side of that point on the waistline. Take 2 inches down from the bust line point, and also from waistline mark 4.5 inches down. Take a scale and join these points. So this becomes the dart on the back pattern. So we are done with the dart now. Let us do the neck. So mark 1 inch down from the shoulder line, shoulder point. Since it is back, just 1 should be enough, which is the standard. Okay, and join the neck width line and this 1 inch down with the armhole curve like this. So we are done with the back pattern. In my next video, I'll show you how to lay these two patterns on a fabric and cut it. Okay. Hope this was useful. Thank you for watching.